A Kentucky woman was arrested after she beat a disabled man with his metal cane until it broke because he dared to say that he didn't believe in God. So Raw Story reports 49-year-old Laura Reed was visiting the victim in his home, and at one point she asked him if he believed in God. The man jokingly replied he didn't. Reed became so enraged by his answer that she allegedly picked up his metal cane and beat him over the head and body, and then she robbed him. His story just gets more and more absurd as we go along here, and sad. So the man was unable to leave because of his disability, and Reed stayed in his home for 3 hours after the assault, and then left with his cell phone, keys, and wallet containing credit cards and $50 in cash. And then get this, man, he was forced to crawl to a local gas station in order to seek help. He suffered serious injuries, including a concussion, a broken arm, multiple bruises, cuts, and abrasions. Now, thankfully, she was just arrested and charged with assault, robbery, and unlawful imprisonment, I guess because she stayed around for 3 hours after she had beat the shit out of him and watched him in pain. So there's a few different angles to this story that we should talk about. First of all, how about anti-atheist bigotry? That's a phrase that virtually nobody uses, but anti-atheist bigotry is pretty fucking pervasive. Okay? I mean, there are governments that are officially bigoted against atheists. Like, they don't allow atheists. You know, what? Saudi Arabia is the perfect example where they decided, hey, all atheists are terrorists. By definition, they say, if you're an atheist, you're a terrorist. I find that so fucking mind-blowing because I'm somebody who is an atheist, and I have sworn off violence in all cases except for self-defense. That's pretty much the opposite of a terrorist. Terrorism being defined as doing violence in the name of a political or religious ideology. And again, the irony is, who are the real terrorists there? They're the terrorists! Because they want to do violence against atheists for a political reason. They don't like atheists. It doesn't fit in with their fundamentalist religion. So they kill apostates, for example. They say atheists are terrorists. You're the real problem here. But anti-atheist bigotry is codified doctrine in many places around the world. And even in places that one would say, oh, well, you know, hey, this is an enlightened Western civilization with rule of law, and we care deeply about all minorities here. That's simply not true. I mean, for example, in the U.S., I think it's 7 states that still have on the state books laws against atheists. Some of them say, hey, atheists cannot run for public office in this state. Now, make no mistake about it, those are unconstitutional because federal law overrides state law, and on the federal level, that's not the case, okay? But nonetheless, nobody cares enough to take them off the books. Nobody cares enough to say, okay, you know what? It's been a while. I mean, we had, like, when there were anti-interracial marriage laws, those were struck down. I believe the latest ones were in, like, the 80s. And because everybody was like, oh my God, how the fuck do you still have that on the law books? It's crazy. Now, again, it's not enforced that they don't let atheists run, so the laws are not in effect, but the letters are still on the state law books. If for some reason civilization vanishes and you have aliens who discover U.S. law books, state law books, you know, a few generations down the road, the first thing they're going to say is, okay, well, atheists, they were not allowed to run. They were not treated fairly or objectively or kindly or anything like that. It is a persecuted minority where you have a green light to persecute them. Somebody was beaten the fuck up because he dared to say, yeah, I don't believe in God. This is unbelievable, man. And then the other important aspect of this is you have a clear example where you're highlighting the problem with fundamentalist religious thinking. So obviously the overwhelming majority of religious people are good people and they're not fundamentalists and they don't abide by this kind of thinking. But clearly the woman who did this is a fundamentalist. And the problem is just rank tribalism. So she has defined herself as a good person because of the group or the clan that she's in. She's in the in group. She's in the cool group. And then since this other guy does not believe in God, now he's the other. He's in the out group, and he's a bad guy. And then now it's totally okay and justifiable, and indeed in her mind it's the right thing to do to beat the shit out of him and steal his shit. Why? Because he's the other. What am I going to do? He's a bad guy. And this goes to show you that many people believe that atheism equals immorality. Atheism equals you're a bad person. You're admitting, I don't believe in right and wrong. I don't care about treating people kindly. And again, irony's a theme in this segment here, but what's the irony? She's like that. She doesn't believe in a true moral code and ethical code of right and wrong, and this is a good way to act and a bad way to act and be kind to everybody. No, because she's the one who's doing the violence. But she defined herself as good no matter what, so hey, I can go ahead and do whatever I want to you because you're the other, you're the bad guy, just by virtue of the fact of who you are and what group you belong to and what descriptor, can be placed on you, you're bad. So I can beat the shit out of you with the metal cane, steal your shit, and I still think I'm the good guy and you're the bad guy. How grotesque is this kind of thinking? And you see it manifest itself in ultra-nationalism too, and, racism and strong ethnic identities too that put down the other. So you see this all over the place, but this is a clear example of it right here, and these are two important issues that never get discussed. I never hear the term anti-atheist bigotry said outside of, this show, but it's a serious issue we need to discuss, and another issue that clearly needs to be discussed is the problem with extremist fundamentalist religious thinking, which fosters this kind of action, and indeed she walks away thinking she's more moral after being clearly immoral.